creaky, more cry, stronger, more compressed. See how he's opening space. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back in the studio with a good cup of coffee for one more vocal analysis. And today we are going to talk about Ghost Fredrik Åkesson, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, and Eric Ericson Chamber Choir playing Bohemian Rhapsody. We did talk a few weeks back about Benson Boone singing this one along with Brian May. It's quite a song. For those who are new here, my name is Caio. I'm a singer-songwriter and voice teacher, and I have this vocal analysis here on the channel where I break down some of the singing techniques that we're listening. So it's not exactly a reaction. Some people will oftentimes complain in the comments that I stop the videos too much, but the function of this channel is analyze what's happening when it comes to the voices, the vocal technique. I'm a voice teacher, a vocal coach, and also a singer myself, so that's what you have here. If you're into this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel, click the bell button to receive notifications. Of course, like the video if you indeed like it at the end of it, and let's go. Let's dive in.
Here is Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody performed by Ghost, Fredrik Åkesson and
Akesson, Fredrik Åkesson.
the Eric Ericson Chamber Choir.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I just realized that I'm not using my phones. Just a second.
2,000 years later.
Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see.
That choir part, that harmony in the beginning is so emblematic. That's something that I would totally do in the future. I will totally do that. Record all the different voices and mix them together. What a song, right? It's a bit challenging to sing because of all the different parts, and of course requires range. There are some really high notes and expression as well, because again, it sounds like different songs depending on the part.
I'm just a poor boy, I need no sympathy. 'Cause I'm easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Anywhere the wind blows, nothing really matters to me. I'm just a poor boy, I need no
We have the choir singing. Some of the voices have the vocal folds passive in what would be what we describe inside vocal anthropophysiology as a Gregorian voice, which basically means that you're trying to sing soft, so that your vocal folds are not resisting too much against the air pressure that you're sending, but the air pressure is still inviting the vocal folds to the center, so we have a closure, but we say that closure is passive. So the vocal folds are in passive tension. And when we are producing that sound, we can have our larynxes lower or lower. And again, for both cases, it is passive vocal folds. You don't have as much adduction, closure of the vocal folds. The vocal folds are closing, but because of the air pressure pulling them to center rather than muscle tension closing them. Now, we have Tobias Forge singing here, and his vocal folds are active. Singer for Ghost. Sympathy. So pay attention to that harder sound. Sympathy, that level of compression. Easy go, little high, little low. Anywhere. So again, the vocal folds are active, they are more engaged, we have more compression. When we have the vocal folds applying more compression, then the air that's coming out will come out faster, and we have a stronger sound.
The wind blows, nothing really matters to me. just kill the man.
Okay. This part is already quite different. When we talked about Benson Boone singing the song, he was doing this with his vocal folds passive. Mama, just kill the man. Freddie Mercury would also sing this with vocal folds passive. Put a gun against his head. But we have Tobias singing here with vocal folds active. So that's already different, something interesting to note.
Put a gun against
Put a gun. We have some distortion there as well. Some phasers. Put a gun.
his head. Pull the trigger.
Pull the. Pay attention to that small rasp there. We have some clear breathiness happening there. And also some crackling of the arytenoid cartilages. So it's not a creaky voice. He's not doing, but again against his head. No, he's adding more breathiness. But again. Quite similar to 80s hard rock. So we have this breathy sound along with the distortion.
Now he's dead. Mama.
Again, active.
Life had just begun.
Phaser again.
I've gone on and thrown it all away. Mama, I didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time.
If I'm not back again. See how he's controlling that. If I'm not back again. He applies the distortion where he wants to. And that's the magic about vocal distortion. Some people will listen to this and they will be like, oh, this is just his voice. He has a raspy voice naturally. His voice is just naturally like that. Or maybe he was smoking too much and his voice became like that. No, this is a behavior that we do. Sometimes we do that behavior knowing what we're doing. I know that I'm adjusting. We have a couple muscles inside the larynx, the posterior cricotinoid muscles that we use to control that breathiness. We also have the body of the vocal folds that's a bit more relaxed, allowing those muscles to have their function opening. So at the same time, we have muscles opening the vocal folds and we allow the vocal folds to be open, not putting too much pressure on them to close. So this is something that we do. Sometimes we know that we are doing that, like my case here. And of course, the way that I work with students so that they are able to control that when they want to. And some people do that without even realizing that you're doing it. And sometimes you're doing it in the right way without any kind of unnecessary tension. They're doing it right, but they don't know how. And of course, I would highly recommend, and I'm biased here because I'm a voice teacher, but I highly recommend that we practice and we train to understand what we're doing and to control that so that we, when we want that sound, we can go for it and we adjust the muscles to have it. And when we don't want that sound, we want something else, and it does happen, then we can say, no, I don't want this. This is happening because this is this and that. I will change what I'm doing to get another result. But yeah, my point is, nothing wrong with his voice. This is just a behavior that he's using. But yeah, my point is, nothing wrong with his voice. This is just something that he's doing technically. And a really important thing that's indicating that is that he's turning it on and off depending on the phrase, depending on the part of the phrase.
Tomorrow, carry on, as if nothing
Remember.
really mattered. It's too late, my time has come. Those rivers down my spine, body's aching all the time. So goodbye, everybody. I got to go.
Got to go. Okay.
I'm gonna leave you all behind. I'm
Right away. I don't wanna die. Again, we have that phaser happening there. I don't wanna die. I don't wanna die. And I told you guys that sometimes with the phaser voice, even without really like going for the phaser voice. It just happens because since the phaser voice is a glottic distortion, that is, it happens at the level of the vocal folds. The vocal folds, when we have more muscle mass mobilized and they are engaging more, they are compressing more, the vocal folds are active. When we have, or we don't have as much muscle mass mobilized inside the vocal folds, we are relaxing them more, and we don't have such a strong closure, they are passive. The thing is, whenever we are playing around with that, and we are somewhere in the middle between active and passive, when we are in the middle, we reach a glottic distortion. And sometimes that distortion that happens in the middle will be a phaser, which means that we have more balance between crackling, yeah, and hiss, wow. Or sometimes it might tend more to the hiss or sibilance side, like what we would call a screech voice. Or sometimes it would tend more towards the more active side, like the snare voice. Say your prayers, little one! Yeah! We have more crackling here. And now again, the phaser is more in the middle, so we have crackling, we have hiss, and we have that So if we're trying to sing with the vocal folds more relaxed than the active, or more compressed than the passive, we reach a glottic distortion. And that's the reason why sometimes these things will happen even in an unintentional way. And it might still be healthy. So let's pay attention to that.
I sometimes wish I'd never been born at all.
So
silhouette of a man.
Scaramouche, when you do the fandango.
now they are singing with their vocal folds active. Well, even before some of them were. But right now, pretty much all of them. We have some distortion in the choir. And we were just talking about the screech voice. Listen to that sound. Galileo! Galileo!
I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
A Gregorian voice as well, but more space, of course, vibrato.
Easy come, easy go.
Okay, this is interesting because throughout the whole song, up to this point, he was singing with his vocal folds. Well, he was either using a vocal distortion, usually the phaser, or he was singing with his vocal folds active. And right now we have him singing with passive vocal folds.
Let me go.
Let's do that again.
Easy come,
easy come, a breathy voice. So we are allowing the escape of air, but this time it's not a phaser. We don't have the crackling, it's just breathy. But the vocal folds are vibrating in a regular way.
easy go. Will you let me go? Mamma mia, mamma mia.
A flat. Everyone's having, look at Brian May. Everyone's having fun, and of course, what a song, right? What a song. So you again, that phaser. This time a bit stronger. Well, the phaser is basically a family. We can have a phaser, also a phaser that's closer to the passive side, we would say that that would be a phaser how. We have a phaser that's closer to the active side. We say that that's a phaser creaky because we have more crackling happening there. Oh! Phaser creaky. More crack, stronger, more compressed. Here, see how he's opening space here and lowering his larynx. Now, a funny thing is, this thing that he just did, it sounded great. He couldn't do that when he was using the phaser, because the phaser is only healthy because of the characteristics. The vocal folds are at a really vulnerable position because of the escape of air. For us to control that and minimize the drying effect on the vocal folds, we need to keep the larynx a bit higher, the soft palate a bit lowered, what we call inside vocal anthropophysiology as horn voices, vocal tract narrowing techniques. Some people might call them twang as well. So we need to reduce the spaces within the vocal tract, and with that we are increasing the supraglottic pressure, we are increasing the rebound effect. That would help us to, even while we keep this vulnerable position at the vocal folds level, maintain the adjustment safe. So again, some vocal adjustments require a lower larynx, some vocal adjustments require a higher larynx. The phaser requires a higher larynx, and this is a great example. He was singing with his larynx a bit higher to sing with the phaser, and then at the end of the phrase he lowers his larynx to get that darker sound.
So you think you can stop me and spit my eye? So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby.
Oh! Oh, baby!
Can't do this to me, baby. Just gotta get out. Just gotta get out of here.
Out of here! Space, dynamics, colors. Yeah! Again, passive. Nothing really matters. I don't listen to a bunch of Ghost. I dare to say that he sings mostly with his vocal folds active, because I'm not seeing a lot of passive vocal schemes here. So I would believe that he's not so used to singing with his vocal folds passive, and that's the reason why he's not risking that much here, even though some parts of the song we do have in the original version a more softer sound. And even here, when he switches to passive, it becomes way quieter than the rest of it. Of course, it could be part of the mix and master thing. You could see, yeah, it could be that the guitar is way louder than his voice. Active again. Yeah, it could be even the sound at the moment, because he's singing right now with his vocal folds active and the microphone is really, really close.
Nothing really matters to me.
Yeah. Sometimes when we are singing and the sound is not so good, we are not hearing ourselves that well, we might tend to do the whole thing stronger so that we can hear something. And if you're a singer, well, I recommend all my students that they don't do that. I try not to do that when I'm singing on stage. Usually what I do is I have in-ears. I try to make sure that I'm hearing well my voice and the band, even if the sound is not perfect in the room. But sometimes that won't be the case. And the idea or the ideal would be for us to be able to control what we're doing based on the sensations, based on how we are moving the muscles, so muscle memory, motor memory, instead of trying to hear the sound, because how we hear the sound will be different depending on the room. Sometimes we will be in the room with a great monitoring system. Everything will sound great. Sometimes it won't be as great. Sometimes it will be able to make your voice a bit louder. Sometimes it won't because it will cause feedback. So we need to go with the physiological. We need to learn how to move the muscles and perform a similar behavior even when what we're hearing is not exactly the same. And again, in-ears help a lot with that. I think he's using in-ears. Yeah, but we can barely hear what he's singing when his vocal folds are passive. Yeah, it might be an EQ thing. And after this ending, I tend to think that it is an EQ thing. I think he's not listening that well, and because of that, he's trying to make the whole thing a bit stronger. What a performance, right? Beautiful. And that goes to show how we can sing in different ways and still kill it. Because he's singing totally different from what we heard Benson Boone doing, and still a remarkable performance, a unique performance. And some of the techniques that he's using are the same that Benson Boone would use. For instance, Benson Boone uses the phaser as well. Benson Boone sings with his vocal folds active at some moments as well, doing warm voices, crooner voices. He uses breathy sometimes as well. So most of these techniques here, we also heard there. So the techniques themselves are not what makes a singer unique. And I don't get tired of saying this. What makes a singer truly unique is the ability to produce with their voices the sounds that only someone with their story could imagine. All of us are unique because we have a different history. And when we sing, the way that we organize all of these sounds is based on the way that we perceive, that we understand the world, and the way that we would express something that we're singing about. So don't think that you will be unique because you don't know how to produce a technique. Hence, if I study vocal technique, I will not be unique. I'll sound like a robot. That's not the case. You have tools to express yourself whatever way you want. You have the tools. You'll be way more expressive because all of these sounds you can produce. You can produce other sounds and you can organize them in a way that will sound like you. Because again, you have the tools. So vocal technique is about freedom. It's about building your voice. And talking about that, if you want to develop all of these techniques, the phaser, active vocal fold schemes, passive vocal fold schemes, ornaments, all of those with vocal exercises for you to practice at your own pace and develop your voice, check the link in the description. I have a 38 minutes long voice lesson for you. And at the end of it, I'll be transparent. I'll offer you the opportunity to be part of my singing method, my training program, Building Your Voice. But that's totally up to you after watching the lesson if you want to be part of it or not. But in the free lesson, you already learned a lot about singing with active vocal folds, belting high notes, and how to practice vocal distortions in a safe way. And inside the full course, you have active schemes, passive schemes, vocal distortions, how to practice each of them in a healthy and safe way. A vocal exercise library with exercises for each of them, and lessons on vocal warm-up, vocal physiology, how to create your own vocal exercises based on the struggles that you're having with your own repertoire so that you can fix those songs, a lesson on how to create your own vocal exercise so that you can fix any mistakes that are happening with the techniques in the repertoire that you sing. So yeah, I guarantee that it's worth checking it out. Link in the description. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel. That helps me a lot with the algorithm. Click the bell button so that you're notified when I release new videos and you have the option of watching them or not. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next video. But before I go, remember that if your concepts cannot be seen here in the real world, they must change and not the world.